was the upsurge in us Zimbabweans realizing that we don't have to work for other people. We can go ahead and set up our own businesses. And hopefully through that process, we've also understood what an entrepreneur is, different from a business person. And you then being saying, no, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm not a business person. And not only that, we've also understood what it means to be a small, a medium enterprise, and how we have to quickly adapt quickly and understand what the business formations and frameworks are for you to thrive, to make profit, not just to say, I made sales, but not understanding all the other concepts that make a successful and sustainable business. You and I, over the last few weeks on our show, we have been pushing the drive towards businesses we can leave for our children and businesses that they can leave for their grandchildren. Akawanda tinoona muno makatangwa na varungu kare avane 70, 50, 30, 45 years, because somebody set up that business and it has been able to stand the test of time. And we hope by the end of the year you might have picked up one or two nuggets that are going to help you move from just being an SME but being a business that is a legacy business. I want you to remember that word, legacy business. And part of that is for you to be able to sit down, look yourself in the mirror. You got to look in the mirror to see if your eyebrow is sitting correctly, right? You know what I'm talking about. It's the same thing with your businesses. Sitting down, looking in the mirror and asking yourself some critical questions about how you were performing this year. Stephen, good morning and welcome. I'm so excited to have you coming in, as we always do every single Monday. You bring us goodies in the form of guests that come and help us understand the topic that we'll be discussing. Today, we are talking about coming up with your sales strategy for 2024. And I kind of feel like now is the right time, maybe almost late to the party, but still a good time to start thinking about your sales strategy.
Most definitely. Thank you, FoLake, for having me today. It's always a joy to be in the studio every Monday for Big Business Pep Talk, and our guests are fantastic. Yeah. So in terms of our discussion today, the strategy for 2024, I think I'm so happy because we are looking at SMEs, and you'd find that so many businesses within our country fall within the SME sector, which means the nuggets that we are going to share today actually are going to help quite a number of business people, quite a number of entrepreneurs. And one thing that we have always said is strategy is very important. You can have that vision, but strategy is important and execution makes it happen.
Right. Yeah. And often SMEs tend to forget the idea that it's important to really run your enterprise like a business.
Yeah.
Strategy.
Yeah.
And this is one of the things that have been coming up throughout Big Business Pep Talk this year.
Yeah.
Clarity of intent and how to translate that, Stephen.
Most definitely. And you find that within that aspect of strategy, I would just highlight a few main things, because I know today we've got a very good expert who is going to help us, who is practical, who is been in it. But I will share these few things today. That if you are an entrepreneur who owns an SME business, it's important that you understand the market, understand the local market that we have here in Zimbabwe. If you are operating in South Africa, you should understand. You'll find that each country has got its own dynamics. The challenges that we face as Zimbabweans is because we don't have our own literature. And most of the time, the books that we read are from American markets, they are from the UK markets. We haven't developed that knowledge for ourselves as Africans. And then the models, the business models that you see for the American market, sometimes they may not work here in Zim because the market dynamics are different. Yeah. So it's important that you understand the market. Then secondly, I think the other important thing is that when you think about doing a business, it's important that you look at the niche that you are comfortable with and focus on certain products and services that you tailor and custom make for the target customer or the ideal customer that you would like to target. And again, it's also important that you look at the suppliers, the other partners within our markets, and you build strong partnerships with them. Because as a business, you don't manufacture everything that you might sell. Sometimes you need manufacturer A to bring you products that eventually you will sell as an SME. So it's important that you also establish local and international partnerships. Then technology, of course, we've talked about this many times, but I think it makes things easy. Sometimes you automate your operations. We have seen that boards, WhatsApp boards, they actually help. They cut on your human resources expenses, and they help you, with responding to certain frequently asked questions so simply. Then, apart from technology, it's also important that you develop payment solutions. In the end, you want the money to come in.
That's a great point.
If you don't have that flawless payment method for your business, it means it's going to affect your cash flow. So it's important that you build that infrastructure that helps you receive the money and manage the money well. I would say, in short, these are the main things that I wanted to talk about. But today, like I said, I know we have a firebrand expert who has been in the FMCG market for Zimbabwe for a long time, and the things that we're going to learn today are very practical, and certainly they will help.
I love what you've just highlighted there about thinking about payment methods, and I think a lot of Zimbabwean businesses fell short there or fall short there, where, like you said, our market is unconventional, right? Systems that work in America may not work here. Mobile money is huge in this part of the world, and you found that there's some businesses that haven't figured out how to digitalize mobile money payments. So I love that it's about understanding your market and coming up with solutions that capture your potential audience so that they still make the purchase.
Very true.
Got you. It's 9:24 on Capital 100.4 FM. Harare is happy. We're talking this morning about you shaping, defining, formulating your strategy for 2024, your sales strategy in particular. And the truth of the matter is, there is no new product under the sun. Seldom is. So how do you as a business make sure that in the struggle, the jungle of sales and marketing and digital innovations, as Stephen has just spoken about, how do you make sure that you get your lion's share of sales in this business? And that's what we're talking about. And I'm so excited. Our guest of the day is here. She is a woman, as Stephen has already said, who is a seasoned commercial executive, Yokai Njanje. I'll give you a rundown of her profile a little bit later, but I want us to get right into this discussion we're talking about. Good morning, Yokai.
Hello, FoLake. How are you?
I'm good. I'm so excited to have you in our show. Not only do you look lovely, but it's so amazing to have women who can speak to other women about this.
Yes, that's correct. Thank you for the appreciation. Thank you for having me as well. I mean, there's something that we call in psychology the 5-second rule, and it applies for commerce as well. I mean, if I walk into the room and you don't see me for 5 seconds and you get an impression that you get of me, that's it, you're done.
Wow.
So I'm glad that you see that I look nice. I try to dress up for the show. So thank you so much for that.
I love this, the 5-second rule. Say that again.
So it's a 5-second rule. So what does, with the 5-second rule, it's a psychology aspect that says any person only has 5 seconds to have an impression about you. So if you walk into a room, you only have 5 seconds to make a statement. After that, that's it. So whatever, even if you're going there to talk about marketing, if you're going in there to talk about sales, the level of my experience with you and also listening to you depend on my impression to you, and it only lasts for 5 seconds.
Wow. Wow. So this is the face of the business as well. You walk into a place.
Yes.
5 seconds I've already formulated an impression about that business.
I always say the same to my team. You have 5 seconds to make an impression. After that, you're done.
Wow, ndatoti kwakwenzi baba nokuti ndachikunguruka nespeed ingoti that is what they hear and not what they see, and I think there's a lot to be said about that. So today we want to talk about sales strategy in 2024. Firstly, let's talk about what a sales strategy is.
So again, in sales strategy, I think most people talk about the marketing strategy, the financial strategy, but I believe the backbone of any business is the sales aspect, because you only get to do financials for people who have sold product. So now sales strategy, what happens in there is you want to understand the channels that you want to use. I mean, I'm glad you also spoke about the differences in literature that we have here in Zimbabwe and what we experience out there. If you go to South Africa, it's very easy to just order even a dress. It can come to your hotel.
Right.
If you go to the UKs, you can even order a full pack of groceries and it comes to you. But again, here in Zimbabwe, how do I strategize my business to be able to go out there to attract the right consumer, number one, and to also drive the efficiencies to say if someone places their order today, how quickly are they going to get it to their home? And also after that, how is the experience going to be? So all that falls into the strategy, and I'm glad that today we're going to be talking about that. Like you said earlier, we're actually late in having this conversation, but we're never too late. It's good that we're actually having it now, but this should have been done maybe around October to December, because that's when you set your strategy for the next year.
Right. So October every single year is the time you should be thinking about the following year.
Correct.
Kwete kumira December, Christmas ya pedo bodo.
October. Christmas,
Why October? Why not September? Why not August? Why not November?
So again, I think October is a good time because now you've got a correct forecast of where your business is going. You've sold from January to October. So ideally you should be able to see how I'm going to close the year, look at the past trends, look at the data, look at how your consumers are feeding back to you, and also what's happening in the environment. Then you can see to say by end of December I should be here, and where do I want to get to next year? You should start thinking about your strategy. October to December is the right place to actually start planning.
October is the right time to start thinking. So SMEs, we're talking specifically to SMEs, that's small medium enterprises.
Correct.
Which are defined as?
So the small medium enterprises is any person who comes from your Musika kind of person, that's an SME. Your person who looks like a mega market, as big as they are, that's also an SME. Because again, if you are not listed on the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange or any exchange in the government, we consider you as an SME. So if your business falls into that space, this is the right discussion for you.
We're speaking to a woman who has been at the helm of being a go-to-market initiative for organizations. She's one of those people that leverages her extensive FMCG expertise and proven track record for achieving strategic objectives. So you can imagine we're speaking to the right woman this morning about setting sales strategy. SMEs, Yokai, I didn't tell you, her name is Yokai Njanji. Yokai, a lot of SMEs right now are faced with a couple of challenges.
Yes.
One, the first challenge that they will have is lack of funds.
Yes.
Ineffective web presence. A lot of us are still lacking in terms of trying to be visible on the internet. What are some key things that you think SMEs are struggling with for them to be able to grow their businesses, especially in terms of sales?
Thanks for that, FoLake. So for me, especially whenever I talk to any SME of any size, the first thing I talk about is the internal aspect, because there are some things that are out there that you won't be able to control. But first of all, let's look internally, inside your business.
Right.
So number one, the issue of strategy planning. It's not every SME that actually sits down to strategize and plan for their business. Some of these businesses that you see out there, they are incidental. Because I've seen my neighbor has got a tuck shop and is doing very well for them, I'm going to also have a tuck shop. My neighbor is selling clothes and is working for them, I'm also going to have clothes shop.
Right.
So again, the strategic planning element is one of the biggest things that is a challenge for most SMEs. It's just we're going. Do we know where we're going? Do we know where we are? Do we have a plan for the future? We actually don't. So I think the biggest thing internally is in terms of the strategic planning.
Got you.
Then secondly, financial management. People, when they start making a profit in their business, they are on the Emirates app trying to find flights for the next trip to Dubai because I'm now making a profit. So the financial management aspect is also one of the key things. If you make a profit, put it back into your business, make it bigger. I mean, I always like the Mega story, Mega Market, and how they started. They started from a very inconvenient store where it was just a small wholesaler down picking rice and all of that, but look at where they are now. They were making $2 profit, then they'll just put it back into the business. Now they're making millions of dollars. But again, the financial management aspect is the biggest one. If my relative has a funeral, I'll just take it from the business, put it to that funeral aspect. So now the financial management is the second one that I would say is one of the biggest challenges. Then lastly, internal is the human resources management. I mean, Stephen spoke about that earlier, where he was saying people struggle to hire correctly. So if you don't hire, my relative is just sitting at home, they're going to come in, they become a clerk. Do they have the experience and the qualifications? Maybe not. So if you don't hire correctly, you're going to have a problem in the business, because businesses grow because they are driven by people. So if you don't hire correctly, then you're having a challenge. And then now, once we're done with the internal, that's what I always say. Let's talk about the internal first. Do you have these elements in play? If you've got them in play, let's now go to the external aspect.
Right.
Number one, business environment. I was speaking to Stephen earlier where I was saying, in an ideal environment, the FMCG environment, you must be able to be funded. Your business should be funded by a manufacturer. That's how the chain works. So let's say your manufacturer is Keynes, for example. Keynes should be able to give you product and then give you time to pay for it. Let's say 14 days, 30 days, etc.
Right.
But they are not able to do that because Keynes can only give you money to fund your business if they also get credit. But right now, if you go to a bank to want to borrow, you're not able to borrow.
Yeah.
So that's a big challenge. So if the manufacturer cannot fund your business, they'll ask you for COD, they'll ask you for prepayment, they'll ask you to come and actually swipe for the product, and you don't have the money. So what you actually end up doing is you go to the those ones who borrow, the chimbazo people. So what you do is they'll tell you, fine, I've got the money, but I want 30% interest for it. So how do you get the 30%? You put it into your pricing. So now I'm gonna go to Keynes, I buy my box of chips, and then I put my 30% already. But remember, I've got costs in my business.
Right.
I want to also make a profit. So all of those aspects are actually falling onto the product. So the only one who will then suffer is the end consumer. So when the end consumer now feels like they are stretched too much and they can't pay anymore, they find other alternatives.
Right.
Whether it's you or somebody else. So
Right.
it's a big challenge that we have because they cannot finance their businesses. And then the other thing is in terms of inflation, I mean, this is a big elephant in the room. Inflation is there right now in South Africa. Things are happening. We were chatting earlier about the take-a-lot aspect where I was saying take-a-lot right now was mainly driven by the credit, where people just go and get goods on credit.
Right.
But now look at what's happening with inflation in South Africa. Those people who bought their goods for $1, for example, now need to pay $1.30 because the inflation has gone up. So if that happens, the consumer will either pay you or they become a bad debtor, and you can't do much about it.
Right.
Now you need to go to the lawyers and all of that, but it's an additional cost for you as a business. So I mean, it's a lot of challenges. To be honest, when we talk about challenges, we can spend the whole day sitting in here
Right.
discussing the challenges.
I hear you.
Yes.
So let's talk about you were talking about HR in a minute, and you said a good business is driven by people. Business growth is driven by people.
Yes,
That's what you said.
that's correct.
So should we hire salespeople in our businesses? Should they be part of the HR team? Remembering that we are still small and all these challenges that we've highlighted, salespeople, are they a must hire on our list?
Definitely. So when you say you want the salespeople to hire other salespeople, or you want to give that function to the HR people, is that what you're asking?
Yes.
So for me, I have big respect for people who are experts in any industry. So if you're good in terms of HR, please stick to that.
Right.
If you're good in terms of finance, stick to that. So if you're HR, there are things that we look at for someone who wants to be in the sales. Where is my business? Where does it want to be? There are different types of people in sales. I mean, there are general people who just sit in a desk and wait for people to come. Those are called order takers. They'll just come and wait for people to come. If they don't come, then it's okay for them. They're not driven to go out there and find business. Look at aspects of what happened even with Zimpost, where they'll just wait to stamp on your letters and that's it.
Yeah.
But they have a big database of people who've done that work before. Why can't they just call to say, FoLake, you used to come to us every month with letters to go to Capital. Why not coming back to us anymore?
Right.
They don't want that. They want to wait for you to come. If you don't come, then that's it.
Right.
And then there are people who are actually able to sit on a desk, look at the numbers, what you've done before, what have they bought, how have they bought, how frequently have they bought, and now they generate a lead. But those people, they are good on the computer. They'll sit and then they'll look at your numbers, chunk them out, and then tell you to say the possible customer that you have next is this person because they're growing this way, they've got a gap of this much. If I go with this product, that will work. So that one is an opener. We call it an opener in terms of sales. But then you have that one who's out, the closer. The closer will pick up on those leads, go to them and sit with them, say, guys, I know you're having these challenges because they've been told by the opener. I know you've got these challenges. How can I introduce my product to you to be able to purchase? So again, in terms of HR, if you go back to the recruiting, who do you want in a business? If I want an order taker, yes, for sure, I'll just ask for someone who looks nice in a dress, sits on their desk and then waits for people to come. Do I want an opener who can chunk my numbers out and look at my data, analyze it properly, and then I tell the HR people, this is what I want. Do I want a closer who is big in terms of relationship, who can go and talk to people, who can go and network? If that's what you want, then you tell the HR people, guys, please recruit for me this kind of person. So it's a whole process altogether, and if you identify the right person, then you're fine.
I love this. So we're saying in sales, there's an opener and there's a closer. The opener is recognizing, as Yokai has highlighted, the people who are the next possible customer. The closer is the one that has the sweet tongue.
Yes.
And I love the choice of words you said there. You are cognizant of where your potential customer is at. So you're clear on who they are,
Yes.
what their challenges are, but you want to provide them with your product as a solution somehow.
Correct.
I love that conversation and I love that thinking where you're not just driving sales. I'm sure
Yeah.
we've all had an experience where somebody calls us on the phone or you meet them and they're trying to make you buy their product
Yeah.
and they are completely oblivious to what you need
Yes.
as the customer, as the
It is
person.
frustrating.
It is
You're wasting
frustrating.
my time. You don't know what I want. Why are
That's
you
it.
telling me?
That's it. All you are just trying to do is to drive your sales.
Yes,
But
yes.
you're not talking to me and asking the right questions, understanding where I am at.
100%.
Oh, I love that. So what's the difference between a salesperson and a marketer? Because sometimes we seem to use them interchangeable as we're walking towards the steps and the strategy, the steps towards sales strategy. What is the difference? Because I think sometimes we use them interchangeably and even the personnel interchangeably.
So sales and marketing is like a salt and pepper kind of situation. They work together very well.
Right.
Sometimes in the meat, if you just put salt only, it won't work. But if you put the salt and the pepper, it's like the perfect taste.
Yes. Get that
So
balance.
for me, when I talk about salesperson, the salesperson talks to a customer. So when I talk to customer, I'm talking about your OKs, your TM, your small SMEs, like what we're discussing now. That's a customer, because the customer should be able to then go and sell to the consumer. So the consumer is who then talk to the marketer.
Right.
So marketing, for my understanding, I mean, Stephen, you're big in terms of marketing and you know this better. But for me, in terms of marketing, you speak to the consumer more than you speak to the customer, because you want to understand the insights. Like you said, for like, what do you want? Right now, you've just woken up in the morning. You didn't have breakfast. I didn't have breakfast.
I really
as well.
didn't.
I also didn't. But I want something that I can have on the go. You are in the car, in traffic. That's an insight. So the marketer goes to fetch for that insight, because they want to say, what does the consumer want? And then when they know what the consumer want, I then come to the salesperson to say, guys, there is a market for instant porridge. People want instant oats, just a 1 meal serve. So I then go to the salesperson, guys, please can you go and put this product in OK in Bon Marché? It's a going cycle where these guys feed into each other very much. So I would say most organizations, they've got sales and marketing is one individual, or sometimes it's led by one person. From my view, I don't think that really works, because I feel there's an element that will suffer somewhere. Someone can be very strong in marketing, but they might not be strong in sales.
Right.
And sales is process. It's all about efficiencies. How quickly can you get the product to the customer? And how can the consumer get it? It's all about the arm's length. I call it the arm's length theory, where you want to be able, the easiest thing to get to you that you can reach out to very fast is the one that you go.
Actually, we are learning a lot here. I'm like taking notes as you're talking here. So in short, you said the marketer knows what the consumer or customer needs. They focus mainly on the customer,
End user of
on the
product,
end user,
which is the consumer.
right? The end user, and sales is focused on the process.
Yes, and the process and the customer. So the customer, where am I selling the product, and how is it going to get to the person who's going to consume it? If I've got millimil, I produce millimil. The salesperson will take it to OK or TM, and then the consumer then goes to buy it from OK. So different people feed into these processes.
Right, got you. It's 9:41 on Capital 100.4 FM. Harare Zabe. Welcome to Big Business Pep Talk Mondays. We talk all things to do with business and giving you the tools that you need to thrive as a business. And today we are focusing specifically on SMEs, but the idea is for you to see yourself growing. It doesn't matter whether you're just doing tomatoes. It doesn't matter if you've just started selling your broiler chickens. The idea is that you must think about growth and legacy in your business. In a second, we're going to be talking to our expert today, our guest of the week, Yokai Njaji, about how now we can start to formulate the sales strategy for 2024. How to make sure that your product, above all other products and possible alternatives, yours gets the pick and maintains the sales. All coming up right here on Big Business Pep Talk. I'm FoLake.
Seeding your goods, do you want to experience the most innovative and efficient courier service in Zimbabwe?
Brilliant stuff.
Your goods throughout the transportation process.
Brilliant stuff.
Guarantee safe delivery of your goods today with our unparalleled overnight, rush and on-demand and same-day.
Do you want to take that question
Get in touch with our business
about new policy?
Yeah, sure, I can. No problem, I can.
You can take it?
Yeah, I can. What does it say? It says,
better delivery.
can I ask your guest about the new policy?
Big Business Pep Talk is brought to you by your business partners, Urban
can't
Create
see the
Advertising
picture.
Agency, Beyond Borders Logistics, and Soka International. Talk to us on +263 772 409 651. Your success, our commitment.
So we're talking this morning about sales strategy as a business. Have you thought differently or specifically about the kind of person you hire to handle your sales? Do you have a sales guy and do you have a marketing guy? Do you know what the difference is? And I'm so glad because our guest today, guest of our week, has been highlighting some of those differences that you need to be aware of as an SME trying to grow your business. The truth of the matter is that your growth as a business is driven by the kind of people you hire. Think about that for a second. So if you're thinking of increasing sales, who is the person that's responsible for that? And I know sometimes as a founder, you want to be the HR, you want to be the finance, the sales, and the marketer. But sometimes, maybe that is the problem, why your business is not growing. And sometimes, I don't always think it's always about having to hire somebody with a sales and marketing degree. Sometimes it's identifying people who have the ability to sell and to market. And you hone in that skill. Yokai was talking earlier about this is tema. Mind after no sheet. Vanotsvaka hama dzavo kuti ini mwana wamai vangu haangasariri mwana wasekuru haangasariri ndakachengetwa nasekuru votorai mwana wekwasekuru. But you also empower them and hone in the skills so that they're actually also able to perform at the job. Musazovengana pamabasa kuti hama adzitogwi nokuti iwe wanga usina kuzopawo mukana kuti adzidziswe kuti zvofanira kuti sei. So let's talk about the steps, Yokai, in as far as formulating a sales strategy for 2024.
Yeah.
Where do we start?
Okay, so for me right now, I think the biggest thing that you need to look for is in SME is the key trends to look out for in 2024.
Right.
There are things that I know are going to be very prominent in 2024 as we go. So number one, technology. I mean,
Stephen
spoke about that earlier.
Right.
Where he said technology is actually advancing. Everyone is looking for the easiest way to do things. There is AI right now where you can analyze your data, get the perfect forecast for your business. How do you then tap into online selling, e-commerce, and all of those things? So technology is really coming. And where are you as a business? If you need to start making some strides in getting those elements in play, then you need to look at that. Then secondly, multi-sales channel. If you have a store, not everyone can come to your store and buy.
Right.
How best can you get to them even without them coming to your store? So don't have an omni-channel presence where you're just available in the formal store or in the brick and mortar store. You need to be available even online to be able to access. And then innovation and creativity. I mean, if Stephen is in the marketing space, this is one of the biggest things that's driving the economy right now. Innovate. I can't say as much as I can on innovation. If you are innovative, it means you are going to make your business better and your consumers are going to experience that convenience of dealing with you as a supplier. So these key trends are important to look at when you're also looking for a strategy. So number one, look at where you are and where you want to be. Where is my business? I mean, I've looked at all these trends. Do I have an e-commerce platform? How can I make it very seamless so that people can trust it? Can people actually put their credit cards on my website and be comfortable to buy using that system? If they are not, how can I make it better? And where do I want to take this business to? Then secondly, you've got goals that you have in a business.
Right.
So for me, goals is just not, I always hear some of my people that I talk to will say, my goal is just to grow the business. What do you mean you want to grow the business?
Right?
It means nothing. You want to grow the business in what channel? In what percentage? What areas do you want to target? It needs to be very clear, because the clearer your goal is, the easier it is for you to achieve it.
All right. So can you give us an example of what, sorry to cut you there, of what a clear goal could be? So it could be a sales goal maybe?
Yes.
Can you give us an example of, so let's say I'm in the shoe business.
Yeah.
So what is a good example of a sales goal that I can have for 2024?
Okay, so an example of a sales goal is I want to achieve a revenue of $200,000 by the end of 2024. Through achieving, you divide the 200,000 by 12 months, and then you have a monthly target. And then how are you going to also get that? Through advertising my business and boosting my posts every week on Instagram.
Wow.
That's a goal.
Wow. So I picked up some things. Sorry to cut you again. You okay?
No problem.
So it was specific. It was measurable. You gave us a quantity of the amount you want to do.
Yes.
It had a time frame. You said by the end of the year.
Yes. And it's also attainable.
It's
Because remember, if you've
attainable.
got a monthly, it's like those bite-sized chunks. If you look at the 200,000, it looks like it's a big number.
Right.
But if you cut it down to monthly, weekly, daily, it's even possible.
Right.
Because now that's an attainable target.
In other words, vanhu vari kuya kubasa vari kuziva kuti kupera kwezuva nhasi
I need to sell.
I should have ticked ABC boxes.
Yes.
Those are your daily goals.
100%.
Love it. Got it. All right. So you're giving us there that have goals.
Mhm.
Right. What was the other thing you're
Then
going
the other one is about channels. I mean, I spoke about this earlier, where I
Right.
said, what channels do you want to focus on? Do you want to continue having that store, or do you want to sell your shoes via an online platform, on Facebook, on WhatsApp, on Instagram? How are you going to be selling your shoes, and what channels are you going to be using? And then another one is in terms of developing the sales process. How am I going to be selling? So the sales process, people just take that word for granted where they sell. The sales process is just a process.
Right.
It starts from A to Z. And if you miss any element of this, I would give an example of someone who produces meal in an organization, and the process of getting it. There's someone who's going to capture the order that comes from the customer.
Right.
The order goes into the system. After it goes into the system, it's cleared because the customer should have paid or is going to pay us.
Mhm.
The order goes, and then how quickly should it get to the customer in terms of days? What is my lead time of that minimum getting to the customer? And then when it gets to the shelf, how do I make it say that I'm present, I'm here? I've got an interesting that I read once where they were saying people shop categories, they don't shop products. For like if you're going to a store
Yeah.
today, your list is probably going to look like milk, sugar, eggs, bread, and peanut butter. Okay,
Right.
but you don't say I want to go and buy Lion's peanut butter. You make that decision on the shelf.
Right.
So how can I make my process very smooth to an extent that when the person now wants to go to the shelf of the peanut butter, they'll pick mine instead of any other product? That's the arm's length reach that I also spoke to you about earlier.
Right.
So those elements form your sales process, and they have to be very nimble and very clear to say, this is how I'm going to get it, and this is the lead time that I'm going to work with. So the sales process is also key. Then another one is training people. We spoke about that Sekuru's daughter that comes and works in my organization, but they're just sitting at home. They finish their Form 4. Yes, they can speak English, they can also write, but they're not very good in terms of talking to my customers.
Right.
Train
Uno
your people.
rafra.
Yes. So now you're talking about technology. Train your people to understand AI. What platforms are they supposed to be using? How can they use AI? Because AI, again, one key thing that people need to understand is AI is a good tool, but it gives you back what you give it. If you put the wrong question in AI, it will give you back exactly that.
Right.
You need to be able to ask it correctly. So how do I train my people to ask the right question? How do they analyze the cells? How do they focus cells and all of that? Train your people. That's also big. Then lastly, just monitor and adapt. That's it. And that's your process.
Right. What's to monitor and adapt?
So monitoring now is to say, if I've got a plan, how is it going? Do I need to change something? Is it going? Let's say you say Turkey. Now I've got my shoes from Turkey. This is my goal. This is my strategy. This is my sales process, etc. And then Turkey, for some reason, says we won't be delivering stuff to Zimbabwe anymore. So now it means you need to tweak your plan. Because now instead of getting your goods from Turkey, now maybe you need to go to China, or you need to go to Belgium or something. So those things are, when you are monitoring and adapting, you look at it on a monthly basis, review it on a quarterly basis, and then you change as you go.
Right. So to me, meetings is also important there from what you're saying, that you've got to be able to monitor and adapt, but also have meetings. I don't know if I'm using the right word there.
Yeah, I don't like meetings myself, but
Yeah.
again, they're important.
They're
They are.
important. Yeah. I wanted to know also in terms of, there's some places that you go. The process takes 50 years to something that can be done in 2 minutes takes 10. And I can imagine if you're taking longer to do something that could be done in less time, that means you're not going to meet
Yes.
those targets.
That's correct.
Time management.
But again, that's part of the sales process. Like I said, what is your lead time?
Mm-hmm.
If your lead time is to say my product should get to my customer in 24 hours, if it's not getting there, what's causing the delay? And how do I fix it?
Gotcha.
Because if you don't monitor your systems, definitely someone is going to come and overtake. Because now if you order your pair of shoes and then it comes through 2 days later and someone is able to deliver to me within 24 hours, I'm going to go to them because I need the shoes now.
That's it.
Yes,
That's
I've
it. And
bought them. They're mine.
one thing that I absolutely loved when I was in India in August, we were shopping online all the time, and part of it was just the convenience of how quickly and easy it is.
Yes.
And you can actually track where your purchase is, how far it is from you, and at some point they actually tell you it's going to be here by 3 p.m. Ningi is dropping it off, and it normally comes in within that time.
Correct.
And you're saying, as a business, that is how you must think. Your processes, if they're so efficient, then you can do that. You can afford to account for every step of the product because your systems and your processes are effective.
100%.
Got you. So
Yeah.
there's a question that's coming up. Well, today is like a power learning session. I'm really taking in some notes home. 5893. Good morning. Yokai, they're asking about the new government policy which says wholesalers must sell to SMEs with VAT, but as SMEs they will not meet the threshold of, I think the government says, about 25,000. So what should the SME do now, do you reckon?
So for me, I had this discussion earlier as well, where I was saying these things actually make the product even more expensive, and the inconvenience goes to the end consumer.
Right.
Because if I'm an SME and I want to be able to sell, I'm going to put that 15% in my pricing because I want to be able to get it back. So ideally what's going to happen is I'm going to make my product a bit more expensive. So these challenges come with SMEs because people have got access to other products and other options. And so now if your shoes are becoming more expensive, we keep talking about shoes. If they are more expensive now, I'm going to go to someone else. If I can go ask my relative who's coming from the UK to say, can you put 2 pairs in your bag for me and bring them over? Then they'll do that. But now what's going to happen to the SME? So for me, in terms of VAT, I believe that regulations and other government policies, they should be followed 100%. So do that. But again, make sure that as you are putting the 15% in your pricing, look at your costs, your variable and fixed costs. Where can you make it tighter? If you now go on to the technological space, you've got the 15% coming in, but do I still need 5 people in my sales team, or do I need 2? Because now I've got a system that's selling for me already. So make sure that you look at all those things so that you tighten your costs and make sure that the end product is not as expensive as it should be to the end consumer.
So in other words, it's not just about passing the cost on to the end consumer. It's about thinking how...
Look internally.
Right.
Yeah, that's
Look
correct.
internally. Oh, I love this. And this is why we had to have Yokai this morning. And I can clearly see why she is doing extremely well, and also why she is an expert in fast-moving consumer goods that sell quickly. So we're talking about things like, for argument's sake, things like milk and things like that.
Yeah.
Yokai is your go-to person because clearly you can hear it in how she's talking, that she's figured out and she's understanding these things. So you and I, 2024 is around the corner. As we are thinking about growing our businesses, becoming more profitable, you need to have your sales strategy. And I love some of the things that Yokai gave us. And as far as thinking about your strategy, she says, you need to ask yourself, how do you get the product out? Think, be innovative in how you're thinking. Don't just wait for people to come to you so that you get the product. Don't say kuti mari guruve asati ku guruve zvobva zvafa. Tichaita sei kuti ari ku guruveyo nyangwe zviri zviri kutengeswa zve 50 cents instead of $5. You're still making that sale. Look at the trends. What is 2024 going to look like in terms of your business, in terms of technology, and how can you use technology to get your sales up? And also, she said, people shop categories, not products. So what will make them pick yours? There's a patenda kuma supermarket. Knowing that she's not doing super, doing toothpaste, do that day. But something made you pick them. How do you get your customer to pick you? Sales strategy 2024, here we come. And she also spoke about your goals being specific. Be clear. It's not a general goal. We want the business to grow. No, how do you want the business to grow? By what time? And using what measurement? And then break those things down to a monthly scale, to a daily scale, and then communicate this to your team so that they move with you. And what last strategy is, Stephen, today has been such a
brilliant stuff.
Right?
Brilliant stuff. My biggest takeaway today is that, if you are in SME and you are selling something, if you have got a brick and mortar store, you should also think of going online. You are not restricted, to just selling in the shop. You can use your Facebooks. You can also create a website where you can sell your stuff online and get the payment system set up for that website, so that you have more opportunities, you have a bigger footprint for you to market and to sell your product.
I love that. And one business for me, especially during COVID, that quickly innovated because they relied on walk-ins.
Yeah.
was the auction business.
Yeah.
They needed us to go in there, and there'll be that guy. I feel sorry for that guy who does the bidding. You know, the guy who speaks quickly and tries to get you to buy.
Yeah.
I feel sorry for that guy because he lost his job.
Yeah.
But they quickly innovated and realized, listen, trends have changed.
Mhm.
How do we stay in business? Let's go online.
Yeah.
And since then, they have an app. They've come up with such great innovative ways to make even online bidding
Yeah.
make sense. I don't need to go in there anymore or as much. It can all be done online.
Yeah.
So any business can innovate and become digital. I think this is the biggest takeaway.
Yeah.
Sure.
Whatever you're doing, you can be online. Stephen, in 30 seconds, how do we get a hold of you? But also, if we also want to connect with Yoka, how do we do this?
Getting a hold of me is always +263 772 409 651. I'll repeat again, +263 772 651. For Yokai, please go ahead.
So for me, you can reach me on LinkedIn. I'm very active on LinkedIn. You can also reach me on email via yokainjanji@gmail.com.
And this is where we stop it for Big Business Pep Talk. Coming up, we're going into drugs. There is a feeling that perhaps children who come from affluent families are more likely to do drugs. Yes or no?